Welcome to the special event tonight. Hey, did I see you at Mass, sponsored by the Church in the 21st Century Center. My name is Meg Stapleton Smith. I'm a junior at BC, and I serve on the Church in the 21st Century's Student Advisory Board. I'm not sure if you guys know about the C21 Center. It was founded 10 years ago after the sexual abuse crisis that hit in Boston. And its goal is to be a resource and a renewal for the church in the 21st century. The center publishes a lot of resources, and we run a lot of programs, specifically the one that most of you probably know about, Agape Latte. And the center also has launched a new app, which my friend Kyle will be telling you about at the end of the program. Each semester, the C21 Center plans programming around a particular theme, and this semester's theme is the Eucharist at the center of Catholic life. This talk will be talking about the Eucharist at the center of this campus's life. To lead the program tonight is Carrie Cronin, with student panelists John Kelly, Megan Wenger, Mike Villafranca, and Vanessa Garza. For those of you who don't know, Carrie is known around campus as the guru on the hookup culture and the imperfect art of dating. You can find a lot of her talks on the center's website and our YouTube page. When Carrie isn't touring the country, talking to thousands of college students, she is here at BC. She's Associate Director at the Lonergan Institute and a Fellow at Student Formation. She also teaches in the Perspective program and has a BA and an MA in philosophy from Boston College. And she's currently working on her dissertation on college students' moral reasoning in the Lynch School of Education. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight, and I'd like to hand the program over to Carrie. Enjoy.
Thank you. Is this on? No? Ooh. That is. Okay, that works. Thank you so much for coming. I want to start off by thanking Church in the 21st Century for inviting us all here and buying the pizza for us. That's always really helpful. It's always helpful in getting students here, too. So none of us will be offended if you get up in the middle of and go and get pizza. We'll be offended if you get up in the middle of it and just leave after you get pizza. But so if you have to sneak out, that's fine. But don't get pizza first and then just leave. That's a little, maybe that's rude. But anyway, I'm glad that you're here. So I want to thank you guys for coming. I know that you're on a library break, or these guys are like skipping class, which is terrible. And I really will speak to them about that later. But I really also want to thank these 4 students because, look at them, they're up here and there's these spotlights on them and it's really a little uncomfortable, isn't it? I know, you're all sort of like deer in headlights. I've met with these guys, with each of these fine, young, wise students, and I have to say that it's always a joy in my life to meet students individually like this, to get a chance to talk to them about their faith developments and their lives, both at BC and outside of BC. And these are just wonderful students. I mean, you guys are all wonderful, but these guys are particularly wonderful. These are fonts of wisdom and grace right up here waiting to share that with you. I'm not going to introduce each of them. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves to you. Just what I asked them to do, we're going to start with Vanessa, is just for each of them to tell us just a little bit about like the basic facts about who they are, and then just to give us a 1 or 2 minute snapshot of their faith life at this point. And then I've got a bunch of questions, so here's how that's going to go. Because I've talked to them each, I know certain things that I want to draw out, so I'm going to ask questions that are going to help them tell us a little bit about their lives and how the Eucharist, how attending Mass plays a role in their lives and in their faith development. And then I'm going to do that for about 30 minutes. I'm going to ask questions, and then I'm going to ask you guys if you have any questions for the panel. So while you're listening, I want you to write down, keep track of questions that you have. Does that sound good? And then I want to get us out of here in 1 hour. Does that make sense? Because I know you need to go back to the library. I don't know if that went over really well. To the library, right? Yes, right. That's where you're going. So we'll try to keep it to an hour. If there's more questions, you can talk to them afterwards over any pizza that is left. Are you guarding the rest of the pizza over there? Okay. So if you want pizza in the middle, feel free to go over there and get it. Okay, so we're going to start with Vanessa, and then we'll just go down the... I know there was an argument about who would go first, second, third, who needed to go last, but because Vanessa got here last, she has to go first, so she's a surprise. Vanessa, introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm Vanessa Garza. I'm a sophomore at BC. I'm an econ and poli-sci major, so I don't know really how that applies to faith kind of right now, but I'll get there. I'm from Texas, San Antonio. I was born in Houston, but I was raised in San Antonio. I have 2 younger brothers. I boss them around a lot, I guess. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, you were raised Catholic.
Sure. Okay, my faith life. My parents are from Mexico, so my Catholic life was more culturally different, I guess, from here at BC. We went to Mass frequently, but it wasn't every Sunday, and I didn't go just Christmas and Thanksgiving kind of thing. I mean, Christmas and Easter type thing. But we did go. And then we had an accident with a fire that lost our house. And so we had to move a lot after that. And so I didn't really find a church for my high school years. But coming to BC, I was like, I'm going to do it. I really wanted to go to Catholic school, and I ended up here. And so here at my sophomore year, freshman year, I joined Cura and Salt and Light. And now I'm on Cura Council and team leader on Salt and Light. So that's really exciting.
Great, thank you. And we'll talk a little bit about Cura and Salt and Light during the program. Excellent, thanks.
Yeah,
Sure,
okay.
Go right ahead.
Sorry. I'm Mike. I'm from right outside Portland, Oregon. I'm a sophomore also. And I'm a philosophy major. What other personal info? I have 1 big brother and a little sister.
What are you majoring in?
Philosophy.
Oh, did you say that already?
Philosophy.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I was shifting my
I did
microphone.
say that. Yeah, I was baptized after birth. Not in the womb, but pretty close thereafter. And my brother and sister went to Catholic elementary school, but I didn't. I went to public school, so my mom would make me go to RE and stuff, and I went to that. I think it was Tuesday nights when I was little. And we went to church most of the time. I was an altar server, so I had to do it once a month, the 5:30 p.m. Saturday night. So I was always at that one, and then I'd try to weasel my way out of the rest of it. And then I went to Catholic high school because my brother was going to a Catholic high school in Portland. So I joined him, and then I got a B in freshman understanding Catholicism, and didn't really care that much. But then I was being confirmed my sophomore year, and I had a real good scripture teacher. I got real interested in it, so yeah, I thought it was an interesting thing to learn about. So I started actually kind of caring a little bit, and then I applied to Catholic school because I wanted to study theology. I actually came here as a theology major, so that's why I'm here now. And then I came here, didn't really go to church at all for a couple months, which didn't make sense being a theology major, but and then my priest back home emailed me, and I don't know how, but he knew about Sons of St. Patrick. So he was like, you should go to Sons of St. Patrick. And then I went there, and they told me I had to go to church. So I was like, all right, I'll suck it up. And then from there, I started going to daily Mass last Lent, and still go there. Lived with Opus Dei over the summer in Chicago. So it's now I'm here. So.
Cool. Excellent, thanks.
Okay, I'm Megan Wenger. I'm a junior here. I'm an international studies major. I'm focusing on political science. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. Is that all that kind of information?
Sure.
Okay.
Anything.
And then, so I was also raised Catholic. I went to Catholic grade school, high school. Our parish community was the same community that lived in our neighborhood. We would walk home from school together, so it was very much a part of our lives. My family is very large, and my parents thought that we would pay more attention in Mass if we sat in the front row. But being a family of 8, we were late every single time to Mass, so we would always walk through the entire aisle to the front row. So that was always fun. But I'm really happy that I went to Catholic school, so that's why I wanted to apply to a Catholic college, and I've been really impressed by all the opportunities BC's offered in campus ministry and in other like outreach kind of programs here to develop kind of intellectually your faith, and then how they put it into action through service groups like I've done Appalachia, or spiritual groups like Cura or GP or STM or ones I'm a part of. So is that
Great, thank you.
Hey guys, my name's John Kelly. I'm a senior. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm an accounting and theology major, and I'm the oldest of four. In terms of my faith life, I went to Catholic school starting in 5th grade when I moved to Atlanta. I think it was actually, before that I was in just like a non-denominational school. And I remember it was actually 5 years old when I found out that I was Catholic. I'd been going to Mass since I was a little kid, but our teacher made us, it was like heavily Jewish, a lot of Jewish kids in my school, and then I guess it was kind of split between Christian and Jewish, and they had everybody in kindergarten make these interlocking cardboard paper loops. The Jewish kids were supposed to make one for Hanukkah to count down the days to Hanukkah, and the Christian kids for Christmas, and I just made both because I didn't know which one I was supposed to make. I remember walking in the car, and my dad was like, "Uh-oh, we haven't really done a good job so far." He thinks he's like Jewish and Catholic. But all my best friends are Jewish, so I had no idea. But so then I went to Catholic grade school, and then I went to Catholic high school also in Atlanta. And then I don't know, the Catholic thing was a huge for me when I was applying to school, but my mom went to BC and I really liked it when I visited, so I applied to BC and loved it when I came here. And I guess in terms of my faith life, I would say for the most of my life, up through most of high school, I just kind of going through the motions. I went to a Catholic high school that made you do community service. That seemed like a chore to me most of the time. It was mostly just how many friends could I get to go at the same time. But I think it started to mean more to me when I came to BC. I never thought in a million years when I applied to BC that I'd be a theology major. That thought never even crossed my mind, but it was on my 48 hours retreat where I was talking with Father Fleming because he had done this speech about doing something that you really enjoy. And I just really enjoyed my theology class so far, and I had a lot of open room, and I wanted to do something else, so I was asking him about it, and I was like, I don't know, I'm not really into all the scripture stuff. I did that all in high school. And he was like, well, look at the course catalog. I think you'll find a lot of stuff in there that you do actually like. And I did. It was a really good decision. And I think things like Appalachia and a lot of things like that, all that kind of stuff started to mean more to me. And I think my faith life changed a lot. I think I had the Santa Claus, white bearded God until I was a senior in high school. But I think it started to mean a little bit more to me once I got into college and think about it a little bit more. So.
Fantastic, thank you. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to jump off with some questions, but I want you guys to be thinking about questions as you're listening, okay? So it's active listening. Can you do that? All right. I heard from Megan and Mike that you guys, that daily Mass is something that's part of your life or has been a part of your life since you've gotten to BC. Can you tell me what's the difference for you? Is there a difference? Is there a difference in how you feel at daily Mass and Sunday Mass? Just, obviously we know there's no.
Yeah, I'll go first. The daily Mass I go to is the 10 p.m. Mass on Upper. It's at the St. Joseph Chapel.
Can everybody hear back
Yeah,
there?
sorry.
Okay.
Do I need to?
Oh, there you go. That's nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on.
Serious business.
I'm here. Okay. So I go to that Mass, and then I teach catechism at St. Columkille's on Sundays. So it's a very different Mass. I don't really know what I should say for the question. I don't know. The 10 p.m. Mass is it's quiet. There's not as many people.
Right, and so at the end of your day, does that Mass kind of function differently in your life for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry. Yeah,
That's okay.
It's good. I don't know. It's good to have quiet. I think at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Great, Megan.
Last year I was going to the 8 a.m. Mass, so the complete opposite. So instead,
I bet that's really crowded, though. The 8 a.m.
it actually is really crowded. It's really crowded, and it's kind of like the who's who of BC's faculty sometimes, because they're the old alums that come back for the 8 a.m. Mass, or a lot of faculty members, and then you'll look on Agora and there will be their picture, and they just got an award, and now you know the name of the person you say peace to every morning. But I don't know, I guess I kind of bop around to different ones, but I started going my freshman year, I think towards second semester, kind of when I still wasn't really sure where my place was at BC, and it really gave me an opportunity to reflect a little bit every day about how I wanted my experience to go here, and it just kind of became a routine, and I really enjoyed it. I think I grew a lot from it.
There's a big difference with daily mass too, because like I think the only one with music is the 12 o'clock at St. Mary's. So like they're all compared to like a Sunday mass with the music and stuff. It's quick too. It's like
It's no more than 30 minutes. I've been at ones
like
that are
if you
like
don't go to
25.
daily mass, like
Quick
just give it
and
a
quiet,
shot just
right.
for a week. You'll get hooked.
Okay, all right, okay. Now, I know from talking to these guys that John spent a lot of years as an altar server. So I don't know, some of you may have been altar servers also. I was not an altar server, but I was a cross bearer, and it was such an exciting time for me. Partly because I liked being up there sort of viewing the whole scene. So John, do you want to tell us a little bit about what it was like to be an altar server? How many years did you do that? What was it like?
Yeah, so I think in most parishes, people stop altar serving when they are 10 or 11 years old. But at my parish, actually, people were altar serving through senior year, and it was a big thing to do. So I did it through my senior year, and I actually started, I think, as soon as I moved to Atlanta. In my family, if your dad made you do it, you're gonna do it. So my grandpa made my dad be an altar server and accountant, and so my dad made me be an altar server and an accountant. But so I did it from 10 until 18, but actually really enjoyed it because it was kind of, I don't really know how this all got started, but we had a deacon at our parish who ran the whole thing, and he was a very stern man. I don't know if he was ever in the military, but he decided to make the altar server a military organization. So we all got ranks, and so you started out and you were a private, and we all answered to the 4-star general. So, and he was usually a senior, he or she was usually a senior, and then they had probably 100 kids total at my parish for altar servers, and they would have 10 teams of 10, and one kid on the team was the team leader or officer as he appointed you. And so by senior year, I think I was the 3-star general or something. And it was a little absurd. But it actually ended up being kind of cool. It was I had never really done daily mass or anything, but it was kind of a nice way to go to mass. I mean, my family always all went to mass together on Sundays. So and my brother did it, and my sister did it with me, so we were all on the same team. So I think it made our mom happy too. And then when we were, as I was a senior and junior also, they would ask you to do weddings, and that usually meant getting paid a little bit at the end, so it wasn't too bad. And I learned a lot from it too also, just about the structure of the Mass and everything like that, so it ended up being beneficial in that way also.
Did you have stars by the end?
I did, I had 3 stars.
Really?
Yep. There was one person above me, but yeah, 3 stars.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Do you have any fun stories from when you were an altar server?
Yeah, I think the craziest story I ever had was when I was a junior. I was, my team came up, and the priest was raising up the bread and wine. There was this girl on my team, and I think she was in 8th or 9th grade, and she'd been looking pretty sick all Mass, and decided just to let it out. Right when he raised up the bread and wine, and I was like, oh my God, this girl just threw up all over the altar, and he didn't even move. He just held it up there. He kind of flinched for a little bit, but I don't even think he knew what to do. And the deacon who was doing that Mass was this stern guy, and he was of course I cannot believe one of my altar servers just did this. And so he looked at me, and he was just get it done. And so I walked back, and I'm cleaning up beneath the priest's feet while he's still saying Mass, and I'm sure it looked ridiculous, but I think my brother and my sister were carrying this girl out. It was crazy, but yeah, that was probably the craziest thing I ever had happen while I was altar serving. So
It's kind of memorable. Did any of the rest of you serve? Were you altar servers? Yeah, you were?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. You have stories?
Yeah, there's some good stories. I was told to say this. If you want good stories, you can ask during the question and answer.
You can ask him later
told to say
about
that.
his hair on fire. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're moving on. I want to ask you this, because it occurred to me in thinking about this that I'm an old Catholic now. And so I have a lot of gray hair and wrinkles. And as a person who has gone to Mass for her whole life, I have to say that Mass has become a part of my life that I can sort of point to things over the years that have been important times in my life. and most of those important times in my life have been marked by particular masses. Trips that I've taken to Vietnam or to Europe, where I went to Mass with people I was traveling with, but also people I had never met before. I remember being at St. Peter's in Rome and really being just awed by going to Mass with people from all over the world who were there. And people were saying the responses in Mass all in different languages. And being in Ho Chi Minh City and going to Mass and hearing Mass in Vietnamese was really just a very powerful thing to me. Also in my life, though, I've been to Masses, weddings and baptisms and confirmations of godchildren of mine have been really important. But also, I've been to Mass in my parents' living room, because I have a couple of relatives who are priests, and I often say at my house, eventually if you wait around long enough, Mass will break out, just because, I don't know, we're just all sitting around, so I might as well have Mass. But also, when my grandmother died, she died at home, and there were 5 of us there with her, and so we called my uncle and said, come over, she's died, and he came over and said Mass, just there with, when we were there with her body, and we knew that would have been her favorite thing, to die in the presence of the Eucharist, and we had been saying rosaries with her just, up until she died, and so it was sort of a perfect time in my life, and those were really memorable things. Memorable Masses. Also, some of my most memorable Masses were Masses on Newton campus when I was a freshman here at BC, at Trinity Chapel, or out on the grass in the springtime, or the Mass of the Holy Spirit on main campus. And I'm wondering if you guys have particularly memorable Masses in your lifetimes, good or bad. You know what I mean? It could be that it was a hard time for you. Some of the best Masses that I've been to were times when I or students I knew were going through really hard times, and I went to Mass sometimes I've gone to Mass with students when they're having a really hard time at St. Mary's, just to say to people, this is a really tough thing, let's just walk across the street and go over to Mass together, and then we can talk about it more. So sometimes memorable Masses are memorable because they're the best times in our lives, and sometimes they're memorable because we're going through something and we really want to connect with God in a particular way and also with our communities. What about memorable Masses for you guys? Vanessa, do you have one you want to start?
Sure. I have 2 that are kind of like that, come up in my mind. I was actually not baptized after birth. I was baptized when I was 6, so I do remember bits and pieces of it. And I remember leading up to it, we were going to go buy the white dress and this and that. I was getting fitted, and I didn't understand why I had to wear this really tight white dress that I was really uncomfortable in. But I was like, okay. And we get to Mass and it's packed, and it was in the cathedral in San Antonio, so the one in downtown. It was really huge, and the people who were getting baptized were me, my cousin, who's about 6 months younger than me, my brother who was 2 at the time, and then my other cousin who was 4, I think. And so I was the oldest. And I'll just lean on this. And we're getting there and we're sitting down all next to each other. And my cousin, who is 5 at the time, I think, he starts crying because he doesn't know what's going on. He just starts bawling. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, what's going on? And I starts getting scared, so I start bawling. So then my cousin starts bawling, and then my little baby brother, he's not a baby, he was 2, but my brother starts crying. And so we have these 4 kids in the front row bawling, because we don't know what's going on. And then we're going, they take us and they carry us to lay us down, to get baptized. And my aunt was like, Vanessa, be quiet. And I was like, okay. And so I wasn't crying anymore, and I was just sniffling and being really, I guess, quiet, because she told me to, and I was kind of scared, but I didn't want to be this emotional wreck going up there. And the priest, says his thing, and he pours the water, and I close my eyes, and I remember it being cold. It was this cold, and I remember it ran through my hair, and I was like, oh, I felt really uncomfortable. And my cousin, he's really chunky at the time, and I remember because my parents were baptizing him, and my mom was holding his feet, and my dad was carrying his whole body, and he was oh, going up there, and I remember seeing him and being this is ridiculous. I don't know, it was just a weird mess. And then after that, We just went home and we had like this big dinner, but I really didn't know what was going on. I didn't realize the significance of it, I guess, at the time. I just kind of went with the flow and did what I was told. And another mass that I remember is I went to Mexico when I was about 7 or 8, and we went, I think my mom's uncle's brother or something like that is a priest. And so we went to a house and they had a mass. It was very different. It wasn't like singing and, the Eucharist or anything. It was like this very passionate, like, intervention kind of thing. And so everyone was sitting down, and he would call people up and like say these prayers to them, and then they would feel really emotional and start crying or like faint. And I didn't know what was going on either, and I was just kind of scared, and like with my mom, like really scared. I didn't know what was going on, and people after people were just going up there, and like he would just stand up and hold it, put his hand over his head and just say these words in Spanish, and they would, start crying and being like, this or this, or like faint, and I didn't know what was going on, but it moved a lot of people, I guess. So those are 2 memorable masses for me.
Anybody else? Have any particularly memorable masses?
Kind of going off the one in the house, my great uncle is a priest, so some of my favorite masses, now that he's older, he won't do this anymore now that he's retired, but when he was younger, we have a family reunion every year in Michigan, and my grandpa used to do grandpa's camp for us, so we would do like all these activities, and we'd have a schedule, and you'd have to sign in. And on Sundays, instead of going into the little town, which was only like 10 minutes away, my uncle would just say mass for us in the kitchen, and it was like one of my favorite things of the whole weekend. I just love it. Like, he's said mass in my like dining room at home, and it's just really neat because my whole, kind of as you mentioned, it would just be like my whole family would be sitting around, and we'd just like pull chairs in from the kitchen and from the living room and everything, and you'd see, and in normal mass, obviously, like, you don't necessarily like know the lector, know the Eucharistic minister, but it was really cool, like, oh, my dad's doing the reading, my aunt's giving me the Eucharist, like my uncle's saying the mass. It was just, I really enjoyed those masses.
Nice. I noticed in talking to all of you guys that somehow we had ended up picking students who are all from not here. And so I'm wondering if you guys noticed regional differences when you came to New England. John, you're originally from New York, is that right?
Yeah, but I don't remember.
Oh, okay, all right. So you guys represent all these different regions. Did you notice anything? Have you observed anything different from sort of how Mass is celebrated, and what parish life is like in your area of the country, and sort of coming to here?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is like back home, no one gets dressed up fancy to go to church. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and like there's a lot of differences. Like, people walk really fast out here, and like I dressed up fancy for today. I'm looking pretty good. But like for Mass, even like you see like kids just like flip flops, pair of basketball shorts, and like I don't know, like a Brandon Roy jersey or something, and like even their dads are just wearing maybe a polo shirt. That's pretty nice. But like to go to Mass here, and people like put a suit on. They look real good, and so I started.
Well, the churches are different.
Yeah,
also.
the churches are different too. Like back home, they just look like Protestant churches. I don't know why. Maybe there's just like less money that goes into churches, but like there's not a single church that I know of back home. Like even our cathedral is not as nice as St. Mary's. It's like it just doesn't. It's not like they're like Protestant churches, kind of like they're like low and just look like I don't know.
Very little.
Yeah, there's no like stained glass or like architecture or anything like that. It's just a building. So.
That's funny, I think, that you mentioned the whole dress thing, because sometimes I go to Mass and at home we dress with the suits, with the dresses, with the heels, all of that jazz. And last year I went to the 9 p.m. Mass on Sunday at St. Joe's, and everyone was like in like hoodie and like shorts. I was like, what's going on? Like I was like, am I at church? I don't know, it was weird. And for me, it was always like dressing nicely, go to church, that kind of thing. But also, there's a big Hispanic culture in Texas and San Antonio especially, and so when they're giving Mass, it's like a mariachi that's actually like doing the music and the singing, and so it's very different in that aspect. That here, you know, you have like the choir, and over with, you know, the piano and like guitar, light guitar, not, and over there, you know, we have like trumpets and the whole jazz. So it's different that way, I think.
That leads me to another question, which is how important is music to you at a mass? And what kind of music do you like? I think in talking to you all sort of fall in different areas on this. Anybody? Is music really crucial for any of you?
That one's directed at me.
No. Yeah, it is.
I really like music. I guess I like a variety of music, but I just really enjoy having music. I know, especially as we were talking about before, differences between daily mass and Sunday mass. Sunday mass, the ones I go to here, I try to go to ones with music. So like one saint, I forget who it is, said that when you sing, you pray twice. And I just have always loved music, so I just love having that be a part of worship. I know that's not a good really answer, but.
No, it's a great answer.
I'm like the opposite, and maybe it's because I can't sing at all, but and also like it can kind of ruin a mass, with all due respect to people that play guitars during mass. Like I think like if you bring a guitar in the mass, it should be like stored in a box and like put away until after it's over.
You're not down with the guitar thing.
Yeah, I don't like guitars in mass. I don't know. I like the church I went to when I was little, like for a long time, because they like started a church. It was like there weren't very many people, and the only person that was in the choir was this lady, and like we didn't know her name, so we just called her Guitar Lady, and like obviously she played the guitar, and she was like she got like really into it, and it kind of like distracted from the fact that you were at mass, because it was like this lady with like feathers and beads hanging from her guitar, like playing. Like.
See, I actually like the guitar at mass. Because I don't know, when I was growing up, my mom used to say the same thing. Like, if you sing, you pray twice. And my dad can't sing at all, but he would always like hand me what that little book is called. And the what?
The green one, the Gather Hymnal?
No, whatever the book was, it's like sitting right in front of us in the pew. He would just grab one of those and hand it to my brother and I. We'd kind of like mouth along with him. I don't know, he's like mouthing too, but he's telling us to sing. But I don't know, I don't know what you guys think, but I never really did it for me as much, some of like the older, more church hymns. But I actually really, really enjoy the way the 10:15 Mass is set up, and the way they do music now there, with John playing the guitar. And I remember after the first few times that I heard him there, I actually went up and I told him, I was like, dude, you're like really good. Like, I actually really enjoy when you like play at Mass. And I don't know, it gets me more, maybe it was because in high school I went on like retreats and stuff, and that's kind of like more of a retreat thing, but it definitely puts me more in the like faith mode, I guess, when it's that kind of atmosphere versus when it's just a choir and typical type piano. Although I know for a lot of people that is the way they like to celebrate Mass, and I think everybody's kind of got to go with how it works for them. So
maybe besides the question of music too, what I know that when I talk to students about going to Mass at BC, people identify themselves very clearly with one Mass or another, right? I am the 9:00 p.m. Sunday. I am 10:15 in the Heights Room. I'm Trinity Chapel, 9:00. How do you decide, or do you affiliate with one particular Mass? Are you committed, or do you float around a little bit?
I guess I'll start. Last year I was like 9 p.m. St. Joe's, like all for it. And this year I go to the 9 p.m. One in St. Ignatius, but it's like the basement kind of. And I don't know if I like it. It's kind of like, I like it sometimes and I go there, but it's really crowded. Different from St. Joe's. I feel like it's not so much community because it's so big that it's kind of like a regular Mass type. And I went to the Heights Room on Columbus Day weekend, and it was the weirdest thing for me. It was 30 minutes, no one sang. You were sitting the whole time, so you didn't even like stand to say Our Father. We were kind of like sitting awkward. I don't know. It was really, I don't know if I liked it. So I might go again and see if maybe it was just because it was Columbus Day. It was really different, but I think St. Joe's 9 p.m. I might go back. We'll see. But it's kind of far from nowhere, so we'll see.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Yeah, I love the 10 p.m. The daily mass there. Like Father Casey's my spiritual director. If you guys have never been, like, go to a mass where Father Casey says the mass because his homilies are great. Like, he's hilarious. He's a great guy. Yeah. So
10 p.m. where?
10 p.m. at St. Joe's on Upper. It's Monday through Thursday. Yeah, it's a good
Anybody
time.
else want to recommend a mass? Particular?
Does he, real question, does he live on Upper?
Yeah, he lives in Fenwick.
Okay.
So.
Because I think I know who that is.
Anybody else? Any particular?
I kind of float around masses.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going to St. Ignatius parish masses a lot more this year. More just because I really like being a part of a parish was really like a central part of how I grew up, and so we would all go with our families, and everybody that was there like went to our schools. So I've really missed that out here, so I enjoy going to their masses because you get to see all the families, and I just enjoy that, but I kind of float.
Okay, all right. Can you, I just want to explain, because you've heard them talk about some groups that they're involved in. I just want to have them explain some of these groups. Mike, you're involved with Sons of St. Patrick, right? What can you tell us about that? What that?
Yeah, Sons of St. Patrick there's a few guys actually in here that are in it too. We're just a group of men meet Thursday nights to pray in St. Mary's Chapel. We pray the evening hours and then we have like a meeting afterwards where either like one of the sons addresses everybody or a Jesuit comes and talks. So if you haven't been, and you're male, then I suggest you give it a shot. It's not that we don't like girls. It's
Come
like
to our group instead.
yeah. So there's a group for ladies too, but it's a good group. It's just a group of guys to get to know who are like all like-minded and trying to live the same kind of life. So that's why it's there. So.
Nice. Vanessa, what's Cura? You said you're on Cura Council. What's that?
Yes. So Cura is you meet in small groups. It's a part of CLC, and you get with 2 leaders. So I have a leader, and throughout you just sign up online if you want to sign up tonight, and you get in groups of, it could be anywhere from like 2 people to 10 or 12, and it's just a small community where you can share your faith. You pray together. You can share anything you want there at all. And what happens in Cura stays in Cura. So it's a great way to meet friends and to just be like, I had a horrible day, or my mom called and said this, and I'm just not having a good day with any of my family members today or anything. And it's just a place to share,
Nice.
your
Do you
faith.
meet once a week or?
You meet once a week, depending on who your Cura leaders are. You set up a time. It's 1 hour once a week, and in any place. It could be in St. Joe's, it could be in someone's room, it could be anywhere that you just meet and just get together.
And Megan, you're in GP?
Yeah, it stands for Grazia Plena, which means full of grace, and it's kind of the counterpart to Sons. It's the women's group, and we meet at 7 o'clock on Thursdays for an hour. So it's a Catholic women's group, and at each meeting we pray together, and we kind of discuss like a different issue relating to faith. So last week we talked about prayer. This week we're having a speaker come in to answer any questions about faith or spirituality that the girls are going to send us. So it's just a really great group of girls. And yeah.
Nice. Oh, and Vanessa, you belong to Salt and Light also.
Yes.
Okay, what's that?
Salt and Light it's a community-based group here on campus, and it's based on 3 pillars, which is community, faith, and service. So the community aspect is we meet every other Monday from 7 to 9 in O'Connell House. So not tonight, but next Monday we'll have a meeting, and it's just a place to share, pray, reflect. Also, the service aspect is we do confirmation retreats for high school students. So if you want to sign up, get involved with that. Definitely do it. Talk to Rick Rossi. He's in that. And so it's just...
Rick Rossi is the contact? Okay. So I'm wondering if any of you, and I think I talked to you, but I honestly can't remember who answered yes to this question. Have any of you ever been to a service that's, a religious service that's not Catholic or not Christian? because you're very attached to Catholic Mass attendance, which is great. And so there's two parts to this question. I want to know, have you ever been to the religious services of another tradition, or have you ever invited somebody to Mass who maybe is a Catholic who doesn't go to Mass, or is somebody who's non-Catholic who might want to sort of come along?
When I was a freshman, I think it was for extra credit, but I went to Temple on Newton campus, and it was amazing. It's completely different than anything I'd ever experienced in terms of like a religious service. And in terms of inviting people, I had an extremely hard time getting any of my friends to come with me, but to Mass. But I always think that like at least for me, the 10:15 Mass was like where I started to really connect more with my faith. So I don't know, if somebody was to talk to me about that, I would say that for me at least, it was like a much more casual way to connect with your faith, I guess, and especially if you're not Catholic. So.
Yes, on both. I was in Boy Scouts growing up, and like when you go camping, you have like a chapel service, but it's like very carefully non-denominational. Mm-hmm. So it's like Kumbaya and like America the Beautiful. Like we actually sing Kumbaya. Like I'm not kidding.
With guitars?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. Yeah, and so that was pretty thoroughly uninteresting for me always. But and then my roommates like started going to Mass with me. Like I don't remember ever inviting like last year one of the guys that was like living on my hall just like came, like I was going to Mass. He's like, "Where are you going to Mass?" He goes, "Okay, me too." And he started going.
You didn't invite him; he just followed you.
Yeah, he was just. I didn't even want him there. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I did. But and then one of the guys I'm living with this year started going to Mass with me like last April or May, and kept it up. So.
What do you think is the appeal for them?
I mean, you could ask him. He's here. So.
You will. All right.
Okay. Yeah, he's here. So
Good.
you could ask him. But I think it's just, I don't know. Ask him.
Is he here? Does he want to speak?
Hey, Carl.
Do you want to? No, that's all right. We won't put him on the spot. We won't ask him to speak publicly unless he wants to during the Q&A, which soon you're going to ask some questions. So I know your questions are burning, so hold on to them. 2 minutes. What do you think at this point in your life, and I got to say, as an old Catholic, it changes in your life, what the thing is that really appeals to you in different Mass styles, different liturgical styles? So for instance, Mike, someday you might be craving that guitar music. I don't know, but it could happen. So at different times in my life, I'm really searching for sort of the reflective, quiet aspect of Mass, and I want a liturgical style that maybe really sort of highlights that, sort of lots of quiet and music that's sort of more traditional and reflective. And then other times in my life, I really am looking for the community feel to be highlighted, and so I'm wanting sort of active, music that's really lively. At this point in your life, what's the thing that most of the time that you're sort of craving when you head to Mass?
I would say for almost all the time for me, it's kind of what you would get at like the 10:15 Mass, where it's more, for me, it feels more about the community than the actual parts of the Mass. So I mean, going through parish life and even being like a altar server when I was a kid, it still didn't mean as much to me, like the kneeling, get up, all that kind of stuff. It just never really did it for me as much. And I guess I'm even being a theology major, I've started to learn a little bit more about the importance of the sacraments, but it's still, all that stuff just seems like, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me as well. But the thing that does do it for me is that when I go to 10:15 Mass, some of my best friends are there with me. I feel like the emphasis is more on, what comes out of the homily, and that's like for me, because when you have like Father Tony and Father Jack, Father Miguel, and all these like great Jesuits saying Mass, there's always something in the homily. It's like it's something only. I mean, and even when I go back home, it seems like to get to the homily, my eyes just like glaze over. I don't know why. I try hard to like listen, but when I'm like in the 10:15 Mass, I'm literally listening to every second of what they say, and then it gets me thinking. And so it's like the 45 minutes out of the whole week that I feel like I really like take a break from the crazy college life and kind of like recenter. And I remember my dad wrote me this email, emailed my brother this email. We came home, it was the only month we were all home as a family was in August, and we didn't go to Mass, I don't think, the entire month. And I remember thinking that was a little weird. I wasn't really thinking about it too much, but by the end I was like, man, we haven't been to Mass in like an entire month as a family. And because it's something that my mom and dad usually pushed upon us. And I think it was just because our lives were crazy and hectic at the time. But I remember when I got to school, my dad sent me this long email to my brother and I talking about how he and my two sisters and my mom had just gone to Mass on Sunday, and they were thinking, and he was thinking like, wow, we didn't do this the entire time. And so he emailed us, he was like, guys, I hope like don't take it like what we did as an example. Like Mass is, I never realized like how important Mass is to me, because if I don't go on Sundays and take that time to like reflect and recenter, then all my weeks just kind of like get mashed together, and I never stop. And more and more, every single week just becomes more about me. And it's that 1 hour that I remember why I do all this stuff. It's for you guys, it's for my friends, it's for my family. But if I don't do that, then by the end of the month, all I'm thinking about is me and my problems and my problems. And that the way my dad phrased it was like exactly what Mass does for me. Like now, because I'll have like, sometimes I'll go like 3 weeks without going to Mass at BC just because I'm like, oh, I got a test, or oh, I'm gonna go watch some football or things like that with my friends. But now I like, as a senior and later on in junior year, I was trying to go like every single Sunday no matter what, because I really do need that like 45 minutes to kind of reflect. And I just, it was good. And I remember like after we both got the email, I saw my brother in front of Lower, and I was like, you get Dad's email? He's like, yeah. And I was like, wow. He was like, I know. And so it was like a really like nice email. And it was just so like, then I kind of understood, like my dad and I kind of have the same feeling about what Mass does for us. So
Yeah, I actually kind of go like the exact opposite reason. I like don't really go to Mass like seeking like community or anything. There's actually there's like some of the guys will recognize this because I use this when I address the sons. But there's a quote from Paul Tillich that I really like. That's the English language has given us two words for being alone. There's loneliness for the pain and solitude for the glory. And there's a psalm also that says, be still and know that I am God. And so going to Mass for me is like a chance to be still and like in that like silence and in that like being alone to like feel solitude instead of loneliness, So to feel some kind of like, I think that solitude is like a word for being alone, but like being alone with God. And I think that's why I go to Mass, is for that solitude. So.
A lot of people say, and I actually, I tore this article right out of the newspaper at BAP's library today. Don't do that, okay? That's bad. But in today's Globe, I know, really, don't do that, because I like to read the paper the next day usually, so don't take it. But there's an article in the front page of the Globe today about the decline in attendance at religious services generally among young people. A big study has just come out, and we know that attendance at religious services is sort of declining in the U.S. and around the world, in parts of the world. John, you mentioned this earlier, that your friends sort of don't necessarily want to come to Mass with you. What do you think might get some of your friends, some of your family members who aren't active in the tradition, what do you think would get them back? Because I think that, I read something like this and I think, wow, I have to say, at Boston College, I think there's a really lively community, and there's a really active faith congregation here. But I know that that's not how it looks in other parts of the world. And I'm wondering, what would you, if you had 2 days to spend, say, at the Vatican, and they really wanted your advice, what would you say? This is a tough one. I didn't pose this question to them at all before.
I think the pizza idea works.
Pizza, excellent.
No, I think, well, at least for me, the whole, church and Mass and faith is personal, I think. And so I don't know if there's something you can actually do to get people to go.
Right, there might not be an institutional response, but a personal response.
Right, like you said, solitude, you like being with God yourself. I think people need to find that in themselves versus you trying to force them, because I don't think I mean, I feel like the church has done a lot of things.
Yeah.
But you can't force people. You have to just let them do it themselves.
Yeah, that's a great observation.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think if people, or I'm not sure if that statistic was people who went and then didn't go back or like didn't like it or not, but I think I've heard from my friends who don't go to Mass regularly and come like 1 or 2 times, like with me or on their own or whatever. I've heard from several of them at different times that they have a peace at Mass that they can't find anywhere else. And that's from my friends who don't go to Mass regularly. So I think that there's something in the Mass that draws people, and there's like a craving in people for purpose and desire, and that can only really be fulfilled through something like Mass. So I don't know, I just feel like if you went, you would like it, but maybe that's just me. And I think the difference in styles between a lot of Masses, I think sometimes people are deterred from going. They go to one Mass, they really don't like something about it, and they think, oh, well, because I didn't like any of the songs at this Mass, that means, oh no, I'll never like, or like Mass just isn't for me, which isn't necessarily true. Like you can go to Mass without music, so.
Right, or guitars.
Guitars.